So, I'm coming to you from central Oklahoma on April 27th in the middle of a tornado watch. And I'm going to talk about a few things with Doordash because it's nice outside. It's nice and cool wind and it feels good. So, if we get interrupted by a storm siren, I'm just letting you know. It's a possibility, but I'm going to talk about what I'm going to talk about. So, I am a veteran of the food delivery world, of the realm of that, and that was my first job when I got out of high school, was doing pizza delivery. Before that, I had worked for the YMCA and stuff, basically shepherding children in the after-school care program. Didn't know that was going to be my first interactions with Zoomers, but unfortunately that was. But what I'm going to talk about is food delivery. It is very addictive. When I got out of the Army, I did delivery for a little bit because it's something that I know, I'm very familiar with, and I have learned a couple of wisdoms in which I will try to impart to you through this video about delivering full-time, even possibly as a job. Now, I do Doordash on the side, I do Doordash on the weekends and everything else like that. I like it. It's therapeutic for me. Go out, listen to some podcasts, or listen to some music, jam out, and go. It's kind of enjoyable. I like it. I like driving. I like driving as a job. I enjoyed working for FedEx. I enjoyed a number of things that involved driving around, delivering things to people. But anyway, you might have started a Doordash account, maybe for some beer money, maybe for some gas money, or some little pocket money or whatever else. And you get the itch. You are getting the itch from doing some Doordizzle. And you really want to go and do this stuff full time after a couple of deliveries. Well, this is the pathway to trying to maximize being able to do this as a full-time job. So first thing that I'm going to talk about is you need a good car. Really, minimally, you need a car that gets at least 20 miles per gallon in the city. But if I'm going to have some recommendations for cars, I'm going to go ahead and suggest things like a Toyota Prius C, Toyota Corolla, like the hybrid version, Nissan Versa, because it's cheap and it gets fairly good mileage. The Kia Rio, because it's cheap and it has fairly good mileage. And if you buy it new, you get a 10-year warranty. The Mitsubishi Mirage, because it gets good gas mileage. And the 10-year warranty, which is good. But if I'm going to recommend cars, it's going to be the Corolla Hybrid or the Mitsubishi Mirage. Anyway, that's my suggestions. The more miles per gallon you can get in the city, the more money going back into your pocket, because the majority of your deliveries are going to be in town. You have the freedom of the open road with school zones and other things like that kind of sap your mileage and stuff. Don't let you maximize your fuel efficiency and stuff. So in that situation, a hybrid would be good. But really, you can make this work if you have a car that gets at least 20 miles per gallon in the city. And other than that, you got to have a little primer. There are things that you are not going to have from a traditional employer with doing something like Doordash full time, and you're going to have things that can work out to your advantage or to your disadvantage, depending on if you do this smart or you do this in a not smart way. So, first thing you have to know is Doordash issues 1099 tax forms. You are not a W-2 employee, so they do not do tax withholding. You will have to save an account for the taxes that you will pay at the end of the year. But in addition to that, there's also something called SEP. Since you are a self-employed individual doing this, you have to pay self-employment taxes, which is about 15% on top of whatever your ordinary income tax bracket would have been, to account for what your employer and what you would have been contributing with the W-2 job to Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security payments. Because that little part that gets taken out of your check at your employer doesn't get taken out of your Doordash check. So when you make money with Doordash, you get all of the money that you made up front, basically. And taxes are up to you. But there's a little trick. There's a little secret. If you're going to be doing Doordash or delivery with a personal vehicle, there is something called the Form 2106 with the IRS. What the Form 2106 allows you to do is be able to itemize expenses that you incur for having to use your car or really any business expenses that you incur, apart from maybe meals, because I think that's not really accounted for. That's kind of on you to pay for your own food. But if you have to use your own vehicle or your own personal property in the course of doing your job, you can take tax deductions on that. So even though you're going to be taxed more on the 1099 with SEP and stuff attached, you take the deductions because you're going to get a lot more than the standard individual deduction on your taxes. What you can do with the Form 2106 is you have two options. You can either itemize your deductions for the expenses that you incurred, which are things like cost of gas, oil changes, mechanical maintenance, and other things, or like the cost of tires and other stuff like that. Keep receipts for everything, because when you do file your taxes, you want to itemize everything and figure out which deduction you're going to take to get a better deal. But the other option that you have is you can take the standard mileage deduction, which for the tax year 2023, I think was 65 cents per mile. And for 2024, I think it's 67 cents per mile. But basically, you want to keep track of your odometer in your car and when you're using it for work. And you want to keep track of the number of miles that you drove every day and then multiply it by 0.67. And guess what? That's going to be the deduction that you're getting if you take the standard mileage deduction. Now, that's one way to save on having to pay extra money on things. And if you're doing a lot of driving, you're probably making more money, but it's a way to kind of bring down what you're going to owe in taxes to the government. But anyway, the other thing that you're not going to have if you're self-employed and doing your own thing is health insurance. You don't have an employer paying for that stuff. Now, if you're doing this part-time, you have employer coverage, but you're going to have to look into insurance options. The private market can kind of be expensive, but it's kind of fairly reasonable. Blue Cross Blue Shield, generally in most states, offers fairly cheap plans for single individuals or for families. But truth be told, look to see if you qualify for any other medical insurance programs. Most states have something called SHIP, which is a state health insurance plan. In the state of Oklahoma, we have Sooner Plan and Sooner Select as options through the state healthcare department. If you're a veteran, look into using VA insurance, because I don't know any veteran that got discharged that didn't get a disability rating. Honestly, you can hurt your toe and get a 10% disability rating. But look into the VA. That's an option. Look into your state Medicaid qualifications, because you'd be surprised. Some things for like women and children, if you have a family, actually have fairly high income levels. Medicaid in expansion states, you have to be making like no money to qualify for Medicaid. But there's another program that you might qualify for it. Now, if you're a retiree, obviously look into Medicare. That's your option for health insurance. And this is something that's relevant to a lot of people in my state, the IHS. Now, you might be an enrolled member of a Native American tribe. And the thing is that what you have to do is you can either enroll with, use IHS services if you have a CDIB, which is a certificate of degree of Indian blood, or if you have like tribal enrollment forms or tribal enrollment card. You can probably, for other tribes, I think it's typically the tribes that use the DAWS rolls rather than blood quantum, you can go ahead and use like tribal services, which, depending on where you live, could be a little bit inconvenient, because you could be part of the Chickasha Nation and be working up in Enid and have some difficulty with things, or you could be part of the Delaware Tribe of Indians, which is the actual name, and the only services that are really technically available to you, because the Bureau of Indian Affairs is giving you problems with stuff, is maybe stuff inside of Bartlesville. So that's a problem. But anyway, what you got to look into is Form 2106. Take those deductions, take everything else. You got to look into providing yourself with health care, because your employer's not going to cover it. But if you're not making that much money, there are options for most people. And that's the first thing. Now that we've gotten that out of the way, we're going to talk about maximizing the money that you can make from Doordizzle. So getting orders and ranking up. You got to start out with doing some dash nows. You got to wait until it's busy in the area. You got to wait till the area on the map is red. which is typically during peak times and stuff, generally in the evening, and you got to do a couple of orders. Now, the other thing that you can do is you can schedule times ahead to Dash. When it asks you if you want to schedule a Dash, you can look at the times available, and you basically lock in your ability to Dash during that time. Because even if it's busy or not busy, if the area is gray, you can still Dash if you scheduled the Dash in the area. Now, the other thing that you're going to want to do is DoorDash is based on algorithms, and it's based on tiers and ranking systems. So in order to sort of milk the algorithm, you have to try to take every order that gets assigned to you, regardless of if there's no tip or a really high tip. The more orders that you take ultimately leads to more income overall, even if it's poor orders, because they kind of even themselves out. Now, algorithmically, this is good for you because when your acceptance rate of orders goes up, you get moved up into higher tiers of things. And additionally, you get ratings for the services that you provide. Now, if you're timely or you communicate well with the customer and their understanding of things, and you're able to communicate what's going on with stuff either through the DoorDash app or through contacting them directly with the phone number that was listed, or that through text message, you're able to coordinate stuff and let them know what's going on, or items changed, do you want to cancel the order, what would you like to do, let them know what's going on. Communication is the key. When you do that, or when you are trying to figure out where they're living and you're trying to ask them for directions because the map isn't giving you accurate directions, or you're delivering to a trailer park and you've never been there before and there's lot numbers and you're confused, people like it when you go the little extra mile to coordinate with them to figure out where they are. Or if you have some executive function and some common sense, just apply that to what you are doing and you will figure it out. Honestly, just go hit the ground running. A lot of people have to pee on the electric fence themselves to figure out anything inside of life, and that's what you got to do. Take every order. It increases your acceptance rate. Even if they don't tip at all, they might still rate you well because you did it anyway, and they weren't expecting it, and they're having to wait a while because nobody was accepting it or whatever. They might give you a good rating. So in the app at the restaurant, you also gotta, before you confirm the order, let the customer know what's happening if there's any delays from the expected pickup and delivery time that is quoted by DoorDash. Now, doing this will get you to the priority access tier, which algorithmically gives you priority for larger tips. Yes, if you take more orders, eventually DoorDash will try to assign you higher and higher tips depending on what tier you're in. Now, in order to get priority access, you need to have a 4.5 customer rating and a 50% acceptance rate, or you get higher priority with a 70% acceptance rate or higher. Now, eventually, there's other tiers beyond that, but what you really want to aim for is top Dasher status. Customer rating, 4.7. Acceptance rate, 70%. Completion rate, 95%. 200 lifetime deliveries since you've started, and 100 in the last month. It lets them know that you are serious. But what Top Dasher, as a minimum, guarantees you is that you can dash at any time and do it on your own schedule, because life comes up, but it basically opens up the field to anything that you want to do. So those are the things that I want to cover. Delivery is a volume game. It is based on numbers, and it is based on getting numbers up. And the more that you can do to maximize the volume of orders that you're bringing in, the more on average you bring in with the DoorDash fees and the payment from DoorDash or from your employer at like a pizza place or wherever else you work. You're going to get the fee on top of whatever the tip happens to be. So the more orders you take, the higher the number will be. You want to take as many orders as possible. Sometimes there will be premium, there will be exceptions to things. Sometimes you might have a delivery that's a really far distance that has a really high tip. Go ahead and take it. You might get a delivery that has no tip and is a very long distance, and typically DoorDash will try to bundle up your order with something else that's going to a generally closer area so that you don't get screwed over with somebody that doesn't have a tip, and hopefully they'll even themselves out. But luckily, they've kind of worked on the algorithm and they've kind of worked things out. But you don't have to worry about platinum or gold status or anything like that. You have to worry about maintaining Top Dasher status and maintaining the priority access status. Now, those are my opinions. You can do this full time. Another thing that you should do is you should seriously consider opening up a traditional IRA, because you can reduce your tax basis and the money that you have to pay on taxes and what's counted as income if you take part of that and move it into a traditional IRA beforehand. A Roth will let you do after-tax money that you pay taxes on. They'll allow you to fund up to a certain limit, but traditional IRA will let you put even more money into a retirement account, and it will take down the amount of money that you owe taxes on at the end of the year. That's probably the best option, and honestly, a lot of financial experts believe that if you open up a traditional IRA is better for when you expect to have a lower tax bracket when you're older than the one that you have now. For the Roth, is if you expect to be in a higher tax bracket than the one that you're in now, because you expect to have a bunch of money. But the reality is that this is kind of a way to kind of insulate what you're doing, pay less on taxes, do a little bit better. Anyway, it's starting to sprinkle, and I'm going to go ahead and go inside. Y'all have a good day.